The day my father called me a fraud in court, he wore the navy suit my grandmother had paid for. That detail should not have mattered. I know that. In a courtroom, facts are supposed to matter more than fabric, signatures more than memories, evidence more than old wounds. But while he stood beside his attorney and pointed across the aisle at me, all I could see was the suit. Grandma Alina had bought it for him 5 years earlier, after he told her he needed something respectable for job interviews. He wore it once to ask her for $10,000, twice to family dinners where he complained about how difficult she had become, and then again that morning to accuse me of stealing the estate she had spent her last year protecting from him. My father's voice shook, but not with grief. "Your Honor," he said, "my daughter forged that file." The courtroom went quiet. My sister Natalie, seated behind him in a cream blazer and pearl earrings, lowered her eyes just enough to look wounded. My mother dabbed the corner of her mouth with a tissue, though she had not cried once since Grandma died. My uncle folded his arms and stared at me like I was a stranger who had broken into the family. I sat alone at the respondent's table with a black folder in front of me, and both hands folded on top of it. My name is Mara Whitmore. I was 38 years old, a licensed probate attorney, and a court-appointed fiduciary in 3 counties. I had spent 12 years untangling estates destroyed by greed, silence, and families who thought grief was a legal strategy. But to my father, I was still the daughter who worked with paperwork. He turned toward the gallery. "She's been waiting for my mother to die. She moved herself into those accounts, wrote herself into the trust, and now she wants the court to believe an 84-year-old woman signed away everything to her." Natalie whispered, "It's disgusting," loud enough for everyone to hear. The judge looked over his reading glasses. "Mr. Whitmore, address the court, not the gallery." My father nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Honor, I apologize, but this family has been through enough. My daughter had access. She had documents, she knew the system, and she used all of it." There it was, the accusation hidden inside a compliment. She knew the system. He made it sound like knowledge itself was a crime. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Whitmore, do you wish to respond at this time?" I could have said many things. I could have told the court that my father had visited his mother 6 times in 2 years, and 4 of those visits ended with him asking for money. I could have said Natalie had blocked Grandma's number after Grandma refused to pay for her second kitchen renovation. I could have told them my mother had referred to Grandma's house as basically ours already, while Grandma was still alive and still asking someone to drive her to church. I could have said all of it. Instead, I looked at the judge and said, "No, Your Honor, the file will answer." My father laughed under his breath. Natalie leaned toward my mother and whispered, "She thinks she's so smart." Maybe you would have spoken right then. Maybe you would have turned around and listed every visit, every bank transfer, every voicemail, every message where they treated an old woman like an inconvenience with property attached. I understand that urge. Silence can feel like surrender when people are lying with confidence. But I had learned something in probate court long before my own family dragged me into one. If people are performing for the room, do not argue with the performance. Wait for the record. 3 months before my grandmother died, she called me at 6:12 in the morning. "Mara," she said, "your father was in my house last night." I sat up in bed. "What?" "He said he came to fix the thermostat." "Did he?" "No, he went through the desk in the green room." The green room was what she called the tiny study off the kitchen. It smelled like lavender dust and old paper. That was where she kept insurance forms, deed copies, tax letters, birthday cards, and a brass desk lamp my grandfather had bought in 1968. "What did he take?" I asked. "I don't know yet," she said, "but I want everything fixed before I die." People think estate planning begins with money. It does not. It begins with fear. My grandmother was not a confused woman. She forgot where she put her glasses sometimes. She repeated stories. She called streaming services the television rent. But she knew her accounts, her property, her children, and the difference between love and extraction. For years, she had tried to keep peace. She loaned money she knew would never return. She let people use her car. She paid for my father's dental work, Natalie's closing costs, my uncle's taxes, and my mother's emergency vacation after a stressful winter. Then she got tired. Not bitter, not cruel. Tired. She asked me to drive her to an independent estate attorney in the next county. I told her I could not draft her documents because of family conflict and because I was one of the people she wanted to discuss. She nodded before I finished. I didn't raise a fool, she said. I'm asking you to take me to someone who isn't scared of your father's voice. That attorney was Lydia Chen, a woman with silver hair, narrow glasses, and the calm of someone who had watched 1,000 families reveal themselves over property lines. Lydia met with Grandma alone first. Then she ordered a capacity evaluation. Then she required bank statements, deed records, tax records, and a written list in Grandma's handwriting of who had received what while she was alive. Grandma made the list on yellow legal paper at my kitchen table. She wrote slowly, pressing hard. Daniel, $18,000 loan, never repaid. Daniel, $7,400 car repair. Daniel, $10,000, job search suit and rent. Natalie, $42,000 kitchen renovation. Natalie, $8,300 credit cards after divorce. Evan, $13,600 IRS payment. Linda, $6,000 cruise, called medical rest. Then she put the pen down and said, "They will say I was confused." I did not answer quickly enough. She smiled. "See, you know it too." The new trust did not leave everything to me. That was the part my father never cared to say out loud. It paid all final expenses. It left charitable gifts to the library and the Veterans Food Pantry where my grandfather had volunteered. It left specific items to family members. It put money aside for my cousin's disabled son. It allowed my parents to receive a limited distribution, but only after repayment claims were reviewed. The house did come to me, but not as a gift. It came to me as trustee, with instructions to maintain it for 5 years as a residence for my cousin's son if his mother needed care support, then sell it and divide the remaining proceeds according to a formula Grandma wrote herself. It was not glamorous. It was not greedy. It was responsible. That made it worse for my father. Because he did not want fairness. He wanted the house free and clear by summer. The sealed file was Grandma's idea. Lydia explained that if the trust was challenged, the court might need supporting records. Grandma listened, then asked for a folder to be prepared and lodged with the attorney, to be submitted only if someone accused me of manipulation. "What do you want in it?" Lydia asked. Grandma looked at me from across the conference table. "Everything they will pretend not to remember." So the file included the capacity letter, the attorney notes, copies of canceled checks, the list in Grandma's handwriting, certified mail receipts for notices she sent to my father, and Natalie asking them to return documents removed from her study. A printout of the home security log from the night my father entered with the spare key he was not supposed to use. A letter from Grandma, signed before 2 witnesses, explaining why she had chosen an independent attorney and why she trusted me to serve. And 1 video. I did not know about the video until after she died. Lydia told me during our first formal meeting as trustee. "Your grandmother recorded a statement," she said. I froze. "For court." "For the file," she said, and I quote, "Mara will try to protect everyone's dignity. I am less interested in that now." I laughed and cried at the same time, which made Lydia hand me a box of tissues without changing expression. Grandma died on a rainy Thursday in October. My father arrived at her house 23 minutes after I called him. Not the hospital, the house. That was the first thing he asked about. "Where are her keys?" I was standing in the hallway holding Grandma's cardigan because it still smelled like her hand cream. "Dad," I said, "she just died." He looked past me toward the stairs. "We need to secure the property before people start taking things." People. He meant me. By the end of the week, Natalie had posted a photo of Grandma on Facebook with the caption, "Family meant everything to her." Under it, she commented with a broken heart emoji when people praised how devoted she had been. I did not reply. 2 weeks later, Lydia sent notices to all interested parties. 3 days after that, my father called me screaming. "Trustee," he said. "You made yourself trustee." "No, Grandma named me." She didn't know what she was signing. She had independent counsel. "You are not stealing my mother's house." "It is not your mother's house anymore," I said quietly. "It is part of her trust." He went silent, then said the sentence that told me exactly what was coming. "We'll see what a judge says." The petition arrived 10 days later. Daniel Whitmore and Natalie Hayes versus Mara Whitmore, trustee. The allegations were ugly enough to be useful: undue influence, fraud, isolation, financial manipulation, forgery, exploitation of an elderly person. My father's attorney wrote that I had used my legal knowledge to construct the illusion of consent. My mother sent me one text after I was served. "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." That was all. Not "Are you okay?" Not "This can't be true." Not "I know you loved her." "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I saved the message. Old habits. The first hearing was procedural. The second was louder. By the third, my father had turned the case into a family event. He brought my mother, Natalie, my uncle, 2 cousins, and a neighbor who had once seen me leave Grandma's house with a box of canned soup and apparently considered that evidence. They sat together in the gallery like mourners, at a funeral for money they had not received. Before the hearing started, Natalie walked up to my table. She smelled like expensive perfume and stress. "You should settle," she whispered. I looked at my notes. "I am following the trust." "You mean hiding behind it?" "No, following it." She leaned closer. "Daddy is going to destroy you today." I looked at her then. Natalie had always said Daddy like she was still 8 years old, and I was still the older sister expected to give up the front seat. "I hope he tells the truth," I said. She smiled. "You always think truth saves you." "No," I said. "Records do." That was when the bailiff called the room to order. My father's attorney began with a performance polished enough to be dangerous. He spoke of family devotion, elder vulnerability, professional manipulation, and documents prepared in secrecy. He said my grandmother had been isolated. He said I had controlled her appointments. He said the trust changes were suspicious because they happened late in life. Then he made his mistake. He asked my father to speak. My father stood, placed one hand on the table, and became the most wounded son in the county. "My mother would never have done this," he said. "She loved all her children equally. She was old, she was scared, and Mara took advantage." The judge listened. My father continued, gaining courage from the silence. "She barely visited before Mom got sick. Then suddenly she's at the house every week, handling bills, driving her around, whispering in her ear. And now we're supposed to believe Mom wanted Mara to control everything." My uncle nodded hard. My mother stared at her lap. I looked at the grain of the table in front of me. I had visited every Thursday for 4 years. Every Thursday. Groceries, pharmacy, mail, trash bins, soup in winter, iced tea in summer. I did it so consistently that the pharmacist knew my voice. My father knew that. Natalie knew that. My mother knew that. But lies told in court do not ask permission from memory. My father turned toward me before the judge could stop him. "You forged that will," he said. "You forged her file. You stole from your own grandmother." Something in the room shifted. Even his attorney looked startled. The judge's face hardened. "Mr. Whitmore." But my father kept going. "No, Your Honor, someone needs to say it. She's a fraud." There are insults that hurt because they are new, and insults that hurt because they are old enough to know where to sit. Fraud. I had built a career protecting estates from fraud. I had sat across from widows whose sons emptied accounts. I had helped recover stolen disability funds. I had testified in hearings where people cried only after the bank records appeared. I had done the work quietly, carefully, precisely. And my father knew none of that mattered to him. He did not need me to be guilty. He needed me to be smaller than the file. The judge turned to me again. Ms. Whitmore, now would be the time if you wish to respond. I opened my black folder. Inside were my notes, Grandma's obituary, a certified copy of my bar license, and a photo I had not meant to bring but somehow did. Grandma at my law school graduation, wearing a purple scarf and holding my diploma upside down. I closed the folder again. The file will answer, Your Honor, I said. The judge looked at me for a long second. Then he turned to Lydia Chen, who was seated at the attorney table behind me as the drafting attorney and witness. Ms. Chen, the court has received your sealed submission. Is there any objection to opening it at this stage? My father's attorney stood too quickly. Your Honor, we have not had an opportunity to review. You filed a petition alleging forgery and undue influence, the judge said. The sealed submission was referenced in the trust certification and lodged with notice. You were aware of its existence. The attorney swallowed. We object to any prejudicial material. The judge's eyebrows lifted slightly. Counsel, evidence is often prejudicial to one side. The question is whether it is relevant. No one laughed. I almost did. The judge ordered the clerk to bring the sealed file. The courtroom door opened. A clerk entered carrying a blue evidence folder with a court label across the front. She handed it to the bailiff, who handed it to the judge. My father stared at it. Natalie's smile disappeared. My mother finally looked up. The judge broke the seal. Paper sounds different when everyone is afraid of it. He reviewed the first pages without speaking. Then he looked over his glasses at my father. Mr. Whitmore, did you receive a certified letter from your mother dated March 14, requesting the return of documents removed from her study? My father's face tightened. I don't remember. The judge looked back down. There is a signed receipt here. My father's attorney placed a hand on his arm. The judge continued. Did you enter Alina Whitmore's residence on February 28 at 9:43 p.m. using a spare key? My father said nothing. The judge held up a page. The home security access log indicates that you did. Natalie whispered, Dad. He snapped, not now. The judge turned another page. This is a handwritten ledger of lifetime advances. The handwriting has been authenticated by the drafting attorney and compared with prior correspondence. It lists substantial payments to several family members. My uncle stopped nodding. My mother pressed the tissue to her mouth. The judge read silently for nearly a minute. It felt much longer. Then he said, Ms. Chen, did you prepare the trust documents? Lydia stood. Yes, Your Honor. Was Ms. Mara Whitmore present during the private consultation? No, Your Honor. Did you have concerns regarding Alina Whitmore's capacity? No, I requested an independent evaluation because I anticipated a challenge. The evaluator found her oriented, consistent, and fully aware of her estate, beneficiaries, and the nature of her decisions. Did Ms. Mara Whitmore draft or alter these documents? No, Your Honor. My father's attorney looked down. The judge turned another page. And there is a recorded statement. Lydia nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Whitmore requested it be included if her intentions were challenged in court. My father stood halfway. This is outrageous. The judge looked at him. Sit down, Mr. Whitmore. He sat. The video played on a monitor near the clerk's desk. My grandmother appeared seated in Lydia Chen's conference room, wearing her blue cardigan and the pearl earrings my grandfather had given her on their 40th anniversary. Her hair was thinner than I remembered from that day. Her hands rested on a folder. Her eyes were clear. For 1 second, I stopped being an attorney, a trustee, a respondent, a daughter under accusation. I was just her granddaughter again. The courtroom watched a dead woman take control of the room. My name is Alina Ruth Whitmore, she said. Today is June 7. I am 84 years old, and I am recording this because I know my family. My father closed his eyes. Grandma continued. If this video is being shown, it means Daniel or Natalie or someone speaking for them has accused Mara of forcing me, confusing me, or stealing from me. That is not true. Natalie's hand flew to her mouth. Grandma leaned closer to the camera. Mara did not ask me for my house. Mara did not ask me for money. Mara asked me 3 times to make sure I had my own lawyer. I did. Mara asked me to tell the truth in writing. I am doing that now. My throat tightened so hard I had to look down. Grandma's voice did not shake. I have helped my children for years. I do not regret helping them, but help became expectation, and expectation became entitlement. Daniel, you entered my home and took papers from my desk. I know you did. Natalie, you asked me for money and stopped calling when I said no. Linda, you told me it would be easier if I signed the house over while I was alive. I heard you. My mother made a small sound. The whole courtroom heard it. Grandma looked tired in the video, but not weak. I am leaving instructions, not because I love one person more, but because I trust one person to follow them. If you are angry, be angry at me, not Mara. She did what I asked because she was the only one who kept showing up without bringing a bill. The video ended. No one moved. Not my father, not Natalie, not my mother, not even the neighbor who had come to testify about canned soup. The judge removed his glasses and set them on the bench. Mr. Whitmore, he said, your petition alleges forgery. My father looked smaller somehow. The judge continued. Based on the materials before the court, the testimony of the drafting attorney, the capacity evaluation, the access logs, the certified correspondence, and the recorded statement of Alina Whitmore, this court finds no immediate evidence supporting your allegation that Ms. Whitmore forged the trust documents. My father whispered something to his attorney. The judge's voice sharpened. I am not finished. The whisper stopped. The court also notes that making unsupported allegations of elder exploitation and forgery against a licensed attorney and court-appointed fiduciary is a serious matter. I am referring the concerns raised by the access log and removed documents to the appropriate review process. Counsel, you will advise your client accordingly. My father's attorney went pale. Natalie stared at me as if I had personally taught Grandma how to speak from the grave. My mother began crying then. Not for me. Not for Grandma. For the collapse of the story she preferred. The judge turned to me. Ms. Whitmore, the court recognizes your authority to continue serving as trustee under the terms submitted, subject to the standard accounting schedule. You will file the first accounting within 90 days. Yes, Your Honor. My voice held. Barely. The gavel did not slam. Real courtrooms are rarely that theatrical. But when the judge rose, everyone else rose too. All rise. The words moved through the room like a verdict. My father did not look at me. Natalie did. Her face was pale, angry, and afraid. For the first time in my life, my sister had nothing to perform. Outside the courtroom, the hallway smelled like coffee, floor polish, and old arguments. My father's attorney pulled him aside immediately. My uncle followed, suddenly very interested in legal advice. My mother stood near the wall holding her purse with both hands. Natalie walked toward me. I thought she might apologize. That was foolish of me. You humiliated us, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. You filed the petition. You could have warned us about the video. I didn't know what was in it. You expect me to believe that? No, I said. I don't expect anything from you anymore. Her face changed at that, not softened, just startled. People who have spent years taking your patients as a family resource are always surprised when the account closes. My mother approached next. Mara, she said, voice trembling, why didn't you tell us she recorded that? I just told Natalie. I didn't know. You knew enough. Yes, I said. I knew enough to follow her instructions. She was our mother too. I felt that sentence land somewhere deep. Yes, I said, she was. My mother began to cry harder. This family is broken. No, I said. This family is documented. She looked at me like I had slapped her. Maybe I had. My father came over last. His face was red, jaw tight, eyes bright with the kind of anger men call pain when it stops working. You think you won, he said. I held my folder against my side. No. Then what do you call that in there? Grandma answering you. For a second, something like shame crossed his face. It passed quickly. You always did think you were better than everyone. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was old. No, I said. I just stopped pretending records don't matter. He stepped closer. You'll regret this. The bailiff looked over. My father noticed and stepped back. There are moments when authority does not need to speak. It simply stands close enough to remind people that the room has changed. I walked away before anyone else could ask me to soften the truth for their comfort. The first accounting took me 46 days. I filed it early. Every dollar, every bill, every lifetime advance, every repair, every tax payment, every distribution allowed and every distribution denied. My father objected to 11 items. The court overruled 9. He withdrew 2 after Lydia's office produced receipts. Natalie sent one email accusing me of turning Grandma into a spreadsheet. I replied once. The trust requires accounting, so did she. She never answered. The house stayed in trust. My cousin's son used it twice a week for respite support when his mother had medical appointments. The library received its gift. The veterans' pantry received theirs. Grandma's church received the piano she had promised them in a note dated 4 years before her death, which my mother tried to call informal, until Lydia produced an email confirming it. My father did not get the house. My mother did not get to rewrite the story. Natalie did not get reimbursed for emotional damages, a phrase her attorney wisely chose not to put in a formal filing. And I did not get my family back. That part matters. People love stories where the truth comes out and everyone who lied falls to their knees. But often, the truth does not give you a family. It gives you distance. It gives you quiet. It gives you the ability to stop attending trials disguised as dinners. 2 months after the hearing, I returned to Grandma's house alone. The grass needed cutting. The gutters needed cleaning. The roses along the fence had gone wild. I stood on the porch with the key in my hand and felt grief waiting on the other side like someone sitting in a chair. Inside, the house smelled like dust, lemon oil, and the peppermint candies Grandma kept in a blue bowl by the phone. I went to the green room. The desk drawer was empty now except for a paper clip, a dried rubber band, and an index card in Grandma's handwriting. I had not seen it before. It said, if they make you prove it once, then come home to yourself. I sat on the floor and cried so hard I scared myself. Not because I regretted anything. Because being strong in public is expensive, and eventually the bill comes due in private. I kept that card. It is framed in my office now, beside my bar certificate, not because I need clients to see it, but because I do. There are people who will tell you that silence is weakness. There are people who will mistake your restraint for fear because it helps them keep talking. Let them. If you have the truth, you do not have to spend it all in the first room that doubts you. But make sure you keep records. Keep the emails. Keep the receipts. Keep the certified letters. Keep the photos of empty chairs and the texts that say what people later deny. Not because you want revenge. Because memory is easy to bully when paper is not there to stand beside it. I have replayed that courtroom day many times. My father pointing, Natalie smiling, my mother looking away, the judge opening the file, Grandma appearing on the screen and telling the room exactly who she was. The strange thing is, I do not remember feeling victorious. I remember feeling relieved. Relieved that I had not shouted. Relieved that I had not begged. Relieved that I had not turned Grandma's final wishes into a family screaming match before the court could see them clearly. My grandmother did not need me to win a fight. She needed me to protect the file. So I did. A year later, the trust administration was stable. The house was maintained. The required reports were accepted. My father stopped objecting because objections cost money and evidence had become unfriendly terrain. Natalie sold her renovated kitchen house and moved 2 towns away. My mother sent cards on holidays signed Love, Mom, as if nothing required nomming. I did not send cards back. Maybe someday I will. Maybe not. Forgiveness is not a deadline other people get to set because they are uncomfortable with consequences. The last time I saw my father was outside a grocery store. He looked older. So did I, probably. He saw me first and looked like he might turn away, but then he pushed his cart toward me. "Mara," he said. "Dad." He looked at the bags in my hand, then at the pavement. "I didn't know about the video," he said. "I know." I didn't know she felt that way. That was the closest he ever came to apology, a confession dressed as ignorance. I could have said she told you. I could have said we all told you. I could have said you only hear people when a judge plays the recording. Instead, I said, she wanted you to know. He nodded once, but his eyes were wet. Then he said, "You look like her." That hurt more than the accusation. I went home and sat in my car for 10 minutes before going inside. Some truths arrive late. Some arrive after the person who deserved to hear them is gone. Some arrive in court folders, some in grocery store parking lots, some in the quiet after you stop explaining. I do not know if my father changed. That is no longer my job to measure. I know what changed in me. I no longer confuse being calm with being available. I no longer answer accusations before the evidence is ready. I no longer shrink my work so my family can feel taller. My grandmother trusted me with a house, a file, and the last clear version of her voice. The day my father called me a fraud, he thought the courtroom belonged to him because he was loud enough to fill it. But then the judge opened the file, and my grandmother took the room back.